One of the biggest challenges colleges face is keeping alumni connected after graduation. Events, reunions, fundraising, it's a lot to manage. And honestly, most schools are piecing it together with different tools that don't really talk to each other. That's why Alumni Q has built their all-in-one platform just for higher ed. It handles the everyday stuff, emails, giving, membership, directories, and it makes it all work together in one place. No more messy systems. And here's the cool part. If you've ever planned a reunion, you know how chaotic it can get. Alumni Q has something called Signature Events that takes the pain out of big milestones. Think smarter registration, built-in giving, real-time reporting, and even printing name tags on the fly. It's like having an extra teammate who never sleeps. So if your school is ready to simplify alumni engagement and actually strengthen connections, check out alumniq.com and request a demo.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for listening to Alumless for January 16th, 2026. This is the Alumni Identity and Journey-Based Engagement Edition. I'm Ryan Catherwood. I am joined by CMAC founder and CEO, Chris Marshall. Hey, man, how are you?
Good, Ryan. How you doing? Good to see you.
I'm good. Happy 2026. We made it. On Alumless, we talk about constituent engagement strategies and education advancement. We are pre-recorded today due to some scheduling challenges, but please do still say hello in the comments on LinkedIn because we will be tuning in and responding to those comments. If you're listening to us by podcast, we appreciate you adding us to your regular feed, and we are grateful for the teams at Protopia, Alumni Q, and Givesy for being our Alumless presenting sponsors for Season 4. If you have not checked out our new Alumni Engagement Foundational course, visit cmac.me for more information. We have a workshop coming up on January 27th from 11 to 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So it's perfect for new entrants to the field with roles in alumni engagement, annual giving, advancement communications, donor relations, basically the engagement side of the shop. All right, Chris Marshall. So tell me about your break, man. What did you guys get into?
We laid low for the most part, which was nice. It just went, you know how it is. It just goes too quick. Everybody says that when you get back after 10 days or whatever it is off. And it's like, oh, where did that go? Just flew by. Although my daughter, my seventh grade daughter had 3-week break. It's like she was out of college or something. And you're like, get out of the house after a while.
I know. That's kind of how I felt. It was like at the end of the second week off, I was like, geez, these kids need something to do again. So it was time to get them back into school. But I guess I wanted to start our conversation today, Chris, by asking you a little bit about your journey with your own alma mater, Lehigh University. We've talked about Lehigh on the show before. We've talked about University of Richmond, my alma mater, before, but you live nearby. We both do. We live in close proximity to our alma maters, and you have sort of certain affinities, preferences as far as how you choose to stay connected. I guess I wanted to ask you personally about your affinities with the school currently, and has that changed at all over the course of time?
So I worked on campus. I graduated in 1988, and I spent 19 years working on campus. That makes it a little weird when you're at your alma mater working there. So, you know, I can share with you at Lehigh University, class-based programming is a very strong tether, and having class-based reunions, for example. But I didn't go to a single one of my reunions at my 5th, 10th, 15th, 20th, 25th, because I was, working there. I just left there. It wasn't until I think it was my 30th, I was actually in the role of the alumni leader. Maybe it was my 25th, running the alumni program when I went to my first class-based reunion. So it's not my class year for me, and it wasn't my college. I was in the College of Arts and Science. I was an architecture major. None of those made me, although they communicate with me, they send me information on a regular basis. I get solicited for funds for both class and college and major. And for me, it was none of those things. It was my affiliation with athletics. And that's stayed pretty consistent, Ryan, over the time I've been. First 12 years I was working in athletics and coaching the swim team. So it was pretty obvious. But since then, it hasn't changed, really. My connection to the place is the thing that had deep meaning and impact on me in my life, and where I care to this day about. So if I'm gonna read a newsletter, make a gift, show up at an event, do anything, right? Volunteer my time, it's going to be through athletics period, full stop. I mean, I don't even think about the other places. It won't even occur to me. How about you? What's your connection? I think yours is Greek.
Yeah.
Mostly,
Well,
right?
yeah. So Greek, definitely. So mine's kind of changed over time. Like I went to my 5th and 10th reunions. I was actually on the reunion committee for my 15th.
Right.
I was the president of the Charlotte Spiders, Richmond Spiders, when I lived in Charlottesville. Now I don't really care at all about my class year or like the regional engagement. And I put together a fraternity reunion for some of the guys that graduated roughly around my era. The fraternity is now no longer on campus. And I go to a lot of the Richmond Spider basketball games, which is largely because it's something fun to do with my kids. But it definitely has changed over time. And I guess that's part of what I wanted to get into with Jay. We're going to bring him out and talk about our journeys, because whether we're talking about the journey sort of over the short term, like what we want alumni to do next, or over the long term, right? What we want alumni to do or how they may want to participate over a lifetime. For lots of people, it kind of changes, and it's up to us to sort of figure out how to stay connected and stay relevant as people move forward in life. So let's bring out today's guest. We have an awesome guest. Been looking forward to having Jay on the
Jay
show.
Dillon.
Jay is the Chief Alumni Officer at the University of California, Berkeley. How are you, sir? It's great to have you on the show.
Oh, it's great to see both of you. Thank you for having me. And just reflecting on the importance of relationships in our business. Ryan, you and I recorded a podcast some 8 or 9 years ago. That's how we first met. And Chris, you and I have known each other, I think, since 2012.
Yep.
And just a great plug for anybody listening here live or in the recording about the importance of staying connected, even within our own community. So thanks for welcoming me, guys.
Super glad to have you. We really appreciate it. Jay, I guess, one of the things you and I spoke about when we recorded that podcast a few years back now was some of the work you've been doing around the concept of alumni identity. I thought that was a good place to start because this was a unique concept. This had something to do, which I hope you'll share a little bit about, with some of your academic research that you were working on, may still be working on, actually. But talk a little bit about alumni identity. What drew you to the concept, and how did you first begin developing it?
Well, the word identity has taken on, I think, some new meaning in our current context. And certainly since 2020, I think more people are familiar with the concept identity as a social structure. Whereas I would say, prior to that, when you thought about identity, you are really thinking about yourself. We all have these self-identities that make up who we are, and we get them from different places. The idea of alumni identity is to try to describe that part of you, whether it's Lehigh or Richmond, that remains with you after this unique experience of having attended college. Just to put it another way, your alumni identity is the degree to which you feel that who you are today is connected to your experience that you had in college. So that's where we start with this concept. And that's where I got interested in the research, because it turns out that there's a ton of interesting research in the field of identity. So if you close your eyes for a minute and you think about how much of who I am right now would I say is connected to my alma mater, that is your alumni identity.
Yeah. But for me, I would say it's a pretty healthy amount, right? That I feel connected to my alma mater. I don't know how to put that on some type of a spectrum, but I feel like probably more than most alumni of my own institution or other institutions in general. Maybe not the most, right? But maybe more than most. Yeah. But I guess, Jay, when I think about this, it all sounds a lot like psychology, right? That to what degree is all this, in the alumni engagement, more about psychology than it is sort of the technology or program offerings? It's sort of about who we are, right?
Yeah, think about the problem that we are trying to solve in the world of engagement. We are trying to help people feel something. Feel more connected, feel more engaged, feel more involved, feel more integrated. Ultimately, we want people to feel this sense of belonging. And the science of feels is called psychology. So that's where I decided to center my research in alumni identity. And going back to the concept of social psychology, of role identity, you probably, if I take you back to your Psychology 101 course, whenever that was, you might remember learning about role identity. And it's the simple concept in social psychology that says who you are today is made up of the roles you occupy. Like, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a son, I'm a friend, I'm a basketball player, I'm a churchgoer, all of these things. And they can change over time. At one point, I wasn't a husband. At one point, I wasn't a dad. And we're most interested in how those roles are prioritized in our lives. So right now, dad and husband is pretty darn high. 20 years ago, it certainly wasn't. So people could change over time, but what are these fundamental roles that we occupy as human beings that help us connect with others? And there's this uniquely American thing about being an alum that doesn't exist elsewhere, although often duplicated, never imitated. It is a uniquely American thing to think a part of who you are is related to your experience in college. There are wonderful colleges all over the world. Certainly, there's no one in Paris driving around with a Sorbonne sticker on the back of their Vespa. Now, I say that by way of illustration, but did you know that 4 years ago, the Sorbonne University hired its very first alumni director, and they're trying to find ways to do that. Isn't that cool?
Interesting. We were approached by the embassy in Paris, who was thinking about putting together a cohort of institutions interested in exploring this topic and modeling it across from American institutions. I don't think that ever panned out. But by the way, Jay, Introduction to Psychology, sophomore year, I got a C in that one. It was not one of my better performances. I remember thinking this is way harder than I expected.
Let me ask you, there's not too many people in our business that have the doctor in front of their name. And I respect you for it. I think it's really cool that you have it. Tell people about the decision that you made and when it happened in your career path.
Well, it certainly came at the right time for me. And Chris, you and I met at a part of my journey where my time at my alma mater was coming to an end. I had worked there for 10 years. I'd earned 2 degrees in music. And, it was an inflection point. I needed to find a new place to land. And I did that at the University of San Francisco. And when I started that was only my second place of work. And I've worked only in alumni relations for 24 years now. So when I arrived at the University of San Francisco as its alumni director, I was very curious to find out, why is it that some alumni give and engage and others do not? And is there even anything we can do about it? Because even in my short time of alumni engagement land, we'd gone from print directories to online communities in those 10 years, and we still didn't know what we were doing.
Yep.
So ultimately, that's the question, Chris. It got me interested. It has kept me in this business, just to be clear. I love people, but you all know this is hard, right? Yeah. This is hard work. It's unapologetically difficult to help people stay connected to something that may or may not be a big part of who they are. So that's where it came for me. It was the middle of my career, early career. I had just left a job and it had been a really hard transition for me. So I decided to turn to school. I mean, that's what we all are here for anyway, right?
Yeah,
to support the students.
Good for you, man.
And it's still curious to me to this day. You can't really get a degree in what we do unless you want to go to the Indiana School of Philanthropy.
So your teams are organized in a unique way at Cal, and your approach in general is pretty unique. We're going to talk about the structure in a later question, but what does it mean to align around journeys instead of programs, events, or other concepts? In your world, what does that mean?
Journeys is about how we move through the world based upon the roles that we occupy. It's not just one journey, it's many. I have a journey as a career. We just talked about that.
Yep.
I have a journey as a dad. I have a journey as a basketball player. I just started playing again about a year ago. Saw my physical therapist this morning. I'm getting old. So journeys, what's the famous quote? It's not the destination that matters. It's the journey. So let's think about that for a second. Someone's journey as an alum starts at some point, and who knows when that is. Some people, earlier than others. But no matter what, you end up at a place where you've earned a piece of paper. You've earned a degree. So one of my favorite exercises in this business and as a consultant is to ask people to take out a blank piece of paper and look down at that piece of paper. Imagine it is your college degree. And look at the major, look at the year, look at the squiggly signature. And I ask people to spend 60 seconds writing down what are the unwritten promises that were made to you when you earned that degree. People write things down. And then we reflect on nobody has written persistently and consistently asked me for money. But that's what we do best in our business. So what do people write down? People write down things about the journeys that they are anticipating for the rest of their life. People write down things like career support. They write down pride. They write down networking. They write get a good job. Those are the journeys that I am interested in. So the way that we have organized things in my small part of the Cal alumni engagement landscape is to try to meet those journeys where there have been gaps. So people often write down lifelong learning. So we have a full-time position dedicated to supporting alumni entrepreneurship and lifelong learning. People write down things like career. So we have somebody whose job it is to focus on professional alumni engagement. That's their title. So those are two examples of how you go back to what were the promises your alma mater made to you when you graduated. They weren't printed on the document. That's where your journey as an alum begins. That's what I'm interested in. I want to accompany Cal's 613,000 living alumni on that journey.
All right. We'll be back with Jay Dillon after our word from our sponsor.
Amy loved her college years. Varsity basketball, student leadership, lifelong friendships. But life got busy, and over time, she drifted away from her alma mater. Then, an email changed everything. A student, just like she once was, needed advice. It wasn't a donation ask. It wasn't a long-term commitment. Just a chance to help. Amy answered, suggesting a call. It took minutes, but for Jacqueline, it meant everything. A real connection. The advancement team saw Amy was engaged. They reached out, not for a gift, but to thank her, to invite her back into the community. Amy realized how much she missed being part of this world. She joined a panel. She met students. She felt the impact she could have. And when the time came, giving back wasn't a question. It felt like the next step. This is the power of Protopia. Not another alumni engagement platform. Not another fundraising tool. A smarter way to engage alumni where they are, creating real connections that lead to real impact. See the ripple effect in action. Visit protopia.co today.
All right, we are back with Dr. Jay Dillon. Jay is the Chief Alumni Officer at Cal Berkeley. Jay, you were just talking a little bit about alumni identity and how it plays into the work that you are doing there. But I wanted to maybe dig in just a little bit from an organizational standpoint. How has the effort to sort of align around the identities that you were just talking about impact the way you have your staff or your team set up? Share a little bit about the org structure that you've got going on there in support of the work you're doing around journeys.
As we were talking about earlier, I've really been focused on how we can fill gaps. And Cal's alumni engagement landscape is certainly not unique, but it is complex. We have an independent alumni association that has been supporting alumni in the university for 153 years. We have business schools and law schools and other professional schools with robust engagement teams. So wanting to avoid duplication, I think, is focusing in on those things that are related to a person's identity and their journey. And at the time that I joined, which was in 2019, going into the pandemic, identity emerged as something that people started to literally wear on their name tag. The use of pronouns, talking about someone's gender identity or their race or ethnicity. And so we began there, and it was not easy. But one of the things that I'm most proud of is the way our team has organized and made our affinity groups, which had not previously been engaged with the university, a core part of our homecoming program. And to be honest, it's become the largest part of our homecoming program. It's not the folks who come back simply because the campus is there and they miss it. It's the people who come back to live their journey through the identity that's an important part of who they are and come back to that thing, whether it's a tailgate or a networking opportunity or an update on campus or a lecture. These are the ways I think that we get alumni to reconnect, not through these broad-based and very open mechanisms that have been traditional in our business. My strategic plan can be summarized in one word, maybe two: narrow the focus. That was 3. So I think you can narrow the focus and broaden the appeal of almost anything that you're currently doing if you look at it that way through the identity and journey lens.
Give us a sense of scale, Jay, if you don't mind. How big is your team? So you're the central advancement engagement team, but also you have an alumni association. How big is that team? And then roughly how many, university-wide, how many people are doing alumni engagement?
I've got a phenomenal team of 10 people. It was just one when I started in 2019, and I'm incredibly proud of this team. They are subject matter experts in their area, and it is organized so that they can run things like they own it. I view my role as, still being new within the Berkeley scheme of things, 6 years in. My primary job is to try to coordinate alumni engagement and activity across the entirety of the enterprise, including the Alumni Association. The Alumni Association is a well-established organization, some 60 employees, multi-million-dollar budget, runs a phenomenal family camp, the Alumni Magazine, 100,000 members. So across the Berkeley enterprise is what I said earlier. Something that worked really well for us that we started during COVID is we started every other month doing an alumni engagement workshop and doing it virtually and inviting everybody. And many of your guests have been guests at that workshop as well. And so there's about 150 people whose primary role is to come to work every day and think about alums and engagement. And that's spread across the 60 at CAA, the 10 on my team, the 6, 7, or 8 at individual schools and colleges. So we come together. We have the Berkeley Alumni Engagement Group. That's the big group that comes together every other month. Then we have an Alumni Engagement Council. That's the thought leadership group. It's me and my chief of staff. It's the executive director at CAA, the Cal Alumni Association, their chief of staff, the chief of staff for athletics, admissions, wonderful partners in the Career Center. And then once a year, we get together for an in-person summit. And those are great days because it's all about the people you meet, not so much what's on the PowerPoint.
Sounds like a fantastic community of practice. I know you've been working to develop that over the last several years, and it sounds like it really is coming to maturity. And Jay, I have to imagine that one of the key components to, what your team brings to the conversation, aside from sort of that campus-wide view and organization, is bringing to the table data, metrics that work to sort of track and validate the work of engagement across the institution. Share just a little bit about the role that data and metrics plays from your vantage point and how that works to sort of validate the work you all are doing around journeys.
Well, I love the fact that we have a professional organization that took metrics and brought them into alumni engagement some 6 or 7 years ago. And Chris, I thank you for your part in that as well. No matter how you look at it, I spent the first part of my career being an apologist for engagement. And for what it's worth, I don't feel like I need to do that anymore. We have phenomenal dashboards built in Tableau that refresh on so many fields, I can't even count them. But it's helping us understand the scope, breadth, the depth, the intentionality of our engagement across the 4 metrics that Case has laid out. Yep. So we have those in a way that individual gift officers can take the 150 IDs of their portfolio, put them in this dashboard, and see how their prospects are engaging across the institution. And what's important about that, because of the distributed model, is telling a story, telling a narrative to an academic leader or a chief development officer at a unit that their alums may be engaging elsewhere. And that engagement may be meaningful. And you know what? Our attitude should be whatever engagement is right for them is right for us.
Right.
So for the listeners, I'm sure you often run into conversations where people ask you why alumni aren't doing things. The best way to leverage metrics is to help educate people on what they are doing. Because after all, as my great mentor used to say, alumni are people too. They are not waking up every day thinking about how to engage with their alma mater. So metrics can help you tell that story. And when you show a dean of chemistry who may think that their chemistry alums aren't all that engaged, and show them actually 60% of them are clicking on emails from the Alumni Association, 20% of them volunteered or attended an event, it may just be slightly outside of their view. Take off the blinders, see alumni as the whole, like the holistic part of their engagement to the campus, and then figure out what to do with that information. So I love that we have metrics that we can share with our academic and fundraising partners that help tell the story about how alumni themselves are engaging. And then let's map to that. Let's become alumni-centric in the way that our colleagues in fundraising have been so successful with donor centricity as a strategy.
Yeah. I love that you are taking the data and using it to help tell that story. There's a lot of, as you know, Jay, there's a lot of places out there that can't even collect the data, or if they can, they're not getting it in full view. And when they go to pull it out, they have disjointed versions of it. You have a clear dashboard and clear processes in place, and you're bringing it to your academic leadership, having those conversations. You know, all those things are in the best practice category. So kudos. And you've done a ton of stuff in the area of innovation and really moving the industry forward. But I would expect that along the way you probably had a few missteps, maybe a trip here and there. What did you learn from those? And would you do it, knowing what you know now, if you had to go back and do things again, what would you do different?
It's a great question. And I remember the very first case conference I went to. It was in Tallahassee, Florida, maybe 2005. And the big topic was millennials. And I thought, well, here I am. I'm an expert on that. Let's go. Yeah. And all the sessions were about how we need to change to engage millennials. And, you know, here we are 20 years later. How much has changed? We tried something at UCLA in my career there, and it was a millennial-focused strategy. It was for graduates of the last 5 years, and we called it the Young Alumni Reunion. It was a 5-year strategy, multi-million-dollar strategy to invite young alums back to the campus and to really throw them a party. I mean, DJ, arcade games, tiki bar. It was all inside and outside on the campus, and we attracted thousands of people. And having, you know, been a young graduate myself, boy, it was fun. I got to see my friends. I got to play the MC. I got to, you know, work the event and have a good time. And after 5 years, you know, we looked at donor propensity of attendees in that time frame. And it was not what we had hoped it would be. And that was a hard lesson in how things have changed. Let me tell you what the theme was. The theme, when I still can see the T-shirt is burned in my brain. It was IOUCLA. That was the theme, okay? Where the O was in the shape of a heart. So IOUCLA. I mean, I can't think of anything more antithetical to what I've just shared with you in these first 20 minutes. Yeah, alumni don't owe us a damn thing. Right. You know, we owe them everything. It fell flat on its face. We wasted a lot of money and time. But I think more than anything else, it's important to repeat that lesson so other people know. You can't simply just start something and expect it to make a difference if you don't do the work to understand who the people are, where they are, and what they want.
I mean, the whole phrase, like, give back, I always struggle with, because it's sort of the implication is you owe something, right? As if there wasn't a degree paid for, you know? Chris, we bumped up against our time here.
Yeah. Before we break, let's go. What's up in the schedule?
Yeah, well, we've got Georgia on our minds the rest of this month. I just recorded an Alumless Takes episode with Ashley Watts. Ashley is the excellent director of annual giving in the University Advancement Office at Georgia State. And we're going to talk about year-end giving, Giving Tuesday, and also sort of some of her observations about how to be a resource, right, for the colleges, schools, and units across the campus from that central position. And then we're going to speak with Janet Kennard on January 30th. And Janet is the Vice President of Engagement at the Georgia Tech Alumni Association. So a little different model there. from the university advancement model, but she is an excellent engagement professional, and excited to have her on the show. All right, so we will be back with Dr. Jay Dillon from Cal Berkeley in just a few moments. Thank you for everybody listening to us on LinkedIn or watching on YouTube. For those of you who are listening to us by podcast, we will be back after the break.